But okay, let's jump into it. What I'm going to talk about today is the 7 issues that new business owners face that kill entrepreneurs literally in the cradle. And a lot of this has to do with distraction. A lot of it has to do with hubris. A lot of it just has to do with lifing. But the bottom line is these are the 7 things that cause the most problems for new entrepreneurs. The first being social media. I know you're looking at a kind of like social media platform now here on Substack, right? But if I were to show up on YouTube or LinkedIn, that's social media. And I'm telling you, consume less of it. Now, why am I sharing that? Because the bottom line is when you look at a lot of the social media gurus that are out there, when you look at the individuals who are talking about entrepreneurship, they paint this picture that somehow because you chose entrepreneurship, money's going to rain from the sky like manna, and that you can earn $1 million in 3 months. You can earn $1 million in a year. And the bottom line is, it just realistically doesn't happen that way. Now, like, is it easier to start up a business and have success than it ever was 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago? I'm here to tell you, indeed it is. It's a lot easier to do that. Give me one moment. My goodness. Okay. Suffer from a bit of head cold too. Anyway, is it easier to do it than it had been in any previous time? Indeed it was. It is. But the bottom line is it still doesn't work that way. When you see entrepreneurs who are having success, it's not that they achieved success overnight. You just found out about it overnight, right? When you talk to individuals, by and large, they've taken years to build skill stacks, experience stacks, talent stacks, relationship stacks. There's all these deficits you have when you come into entrepreneurship, especially if you haven't tried your hand at a particular endeavor or you haven't developed expertise. And it takes time to develop those things. It's like baking a cake. And what ends up happening is you work, you fail, you fail, you work, you learn, you evaluate. If you are persistent and enthusiastic, if you are just as enthusiastic during your failures as you are in your successes, you attract talent, people around you, and it's that swirl, right? It's that cake that starts to cook, or that gumbo that starts to cook. And then at some point, the combination lock, so to speak, the right ingredients are there and you begin to have success. And we know what many of those ingredients are. And I'm a can-do person. I'm not a can't-do person. But so I'm going to come back to that at another time. But that's one of the biggest issues, false expectations. People believing, one of my business mentors always said, the biggest mistake that people make, particularly entrepreneurs, is underestimating what can be accomplished over the long term and overestimating over the short term. You set these false expectations for yourself and then they're like gut punches. And then people fall off. So that's number 1. False expectations. You need to know there's a price to be paid. There are certain ingredients you need to be willing to take the time to cook. The second thing is this, the arrogance of achievement. People who have the most difficulty with entrepreneurship are typically the people with the education. It's people with the MBAs. It's people with the doctorate degrees. It's the individuals who've achieved, and maybe not a super elite level, but achieved in any endeavor. It is because you bring those experiences into entrepreneurship, you think they're applicable and they're not, right? The ideal that if I want it done right, I'll do it myself. That ain't going to work here because you have to delegate. You can't do everything. You can't be the CEO, CFO, CO, CTO, CIO, CMO, HR, tax, accounting, legal, and everything else is required to make a business run. It's just not going to happen. And so a lot of these attitudes you have, the expectations. See, in corporate America, you are rewarded for being different. You are rewarded for being the special, right? You're rewarded for what you can do, how you stand out, right? As opposed to your other colleagues, which in corporate America are kind of like your competitors. It's just the reality matter, right? You don't advance unless somebody loses their job or unless there's a slip and fall, metaphorically speaking, right? Entrepreneurship is just the exact opposite. The bottom line is in order for your business to scale, in order for your business to grow, things have to become simplified. They cannot be super complex. Even though you're compensated for solving complex situations by yourself in corporate America, entrepreneurship, you have to be able to duplicate. You have to identify tasks. You have to identify a to-do list or a track to run on that other people can step onto that track and run it. And they may not be able to run it as effectively as you do because you've been at it probably 5, 10, 20 years. but they have to run it with a spirit of excellence, and you provide them opportunities to get better. But you just have to understand that people are going to do things differently than you. They're not going to run the race the same way you did. They don't have the requisite experience that you have. And that's one of the biggest difficulties that people who achieve have. They don't want to adopt the fact that your success is not going to be predicated upon you, but the business model. You don't grow a, a McDonald's empire. You don't grow a Subway empire or a Starbucks empire based on the brilliance of one person. I turned that off and it still went off anyway. Really annoying. Anyway, that type of brilliance doesn't scale businesses. And not even at the lowest level. I mean, you can get away with it for a while. You'll be self-employed, but then you've created a job, right? And if you want to scale anything, you have to understand that arrogance achievement, you have to put that down. You have to learn how to operate within a business model. You have to learn to operate in a way that accommodates individuals who may not have your requisite skills, may not have your talent stacks, may not have your experience stacks or wisdom stacks. You get where I'm going with this, right? That kills business owners all day, every day. The other thing that will kill entrepreneurs is willful ignorance. And sometimes you're willfully ignorant when you're arrogant, right? But I'm talking about more specifically, look, you go to school for years to acquire a job that did not set you free in terms of being financially independent. You acquire a job, because that's why you chose entrepreneurship, right? Let's just be real. You wanted agency, you wanted control. You got tired of being the A student working for the C student. You were invigorated by a passion or a vision and you decided to pursue it. Those are typically the reasons why, or out of necessity. But the bottom line is, whatever it is you are transitioning from, more than likely, if you're listening to this, you had a job, you had a career. And you went to school for years and years and years and years, and never mind whether or not we believe school is a hoax or, not what it used to be. Okay, fine. Not what it is we expect it to be. Okay, great. But the bottom line is you made that type of investment. You learned some requisite things in order to go out here and be effective in the marketplace. Why do you think entrepreneurship is going to be any different? Right? The moment I hear someone say, I don't have time to read. The moment I hear someone say, I don't have time to go to a workshop. The moment I hear someone say, I don't want to spend money on a seminar, invest in myself. When I start hearing those things, I know immediately you're about to catch that L. I'm just being so real. Because if you think about entrepreneurship and what it is, and the reason why those of us who enjoy success above and beyond the average Joe, it's because of the arbitrage. We see things first. Entrepreneurs live out on the edges. So we identify the problems and then we also submit the solutions first for anyone else. And then we iterate. But if you're not learned, if you're not aware, if you're not constantly consuming the right information, if you're not consuming information to help you be better able to provide solutions to problems, and of course, the bigger the problems you solve, the more you earn. And that's not just business-wise, but that's also personally as well. Another time, another conversation. That's what determines our ability to earn what we earn. Because people come to us because they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the time, they don't have the resources, or they don't have the drive to go out on the edges, right? And so, look, you got to have respect for the journey. You have to be willing to learn. And if you are one of those individuals that's anti-learning, good luck. You can survive for a little while, but eventually, man, the pace of change and the way we have evolved as society and just human beings in general and technology and everything else, man, your success is going to be short-lived. It's going to be painful. The reason why I chose entrepreneurship is because I wanted to invest a lot of time and energy up front. I knew there was a price. I knew I wasn't going to get paid for the things I was doing at the time. So later on, I can be compensated for things I no longer have to do. Because I've built assets, I've built businesses, I've built business models. And I've learned how to do those things along the way, right? Some of you are going about it the opposite way. Yeah, you're earning the money up front, but man, the tail end is going to be ugly. And you're not going to have the legs in your 50s and 60s, or heaven forbid, your 70s, that you did in your 30s and your 40s. And yeah, you work differently as you age, but man, you better have a foundation of success to work off of. Anyway, moving on. So look, respect for the journey. I guess I could have made 7 and a 6. The respect for the journey and the low esteem piece is really huge, right? The bottom line is Americans in general, but I'm going to be more specific, talking to my ebony complected people, is that look, full of confidence, no esteem. Full of confidence, no esteem. There are a couple things that I just refuse to do. Number one, I've gotten to the point where I refuse to get into certain fights and conflicts. I'm confident enough to know what I know. I'm confident to know that I'm constantly willing to learn. I'm constantly willing to take in information, insight. So I really don't indulge in arguments with people about certain types of things anymore. It just doesn't serve me, right? And oftentimes people spend a lot of time arguing and fighting over things that just aren't all that important. There's a book out there with Patrick David. I think it's Choose Your Enemies Wisely, and he talks about this. Same thing. 2 books that I enjoy of his. I think the next one is The Next 5 Moves. And the bottom line is, if you are not an obstacle to my success, I'm not going to argue with you. Right? I have too much esteem for the work that I'm doing, and quite frankly, I have too much esteem for the other person. It's like, look, it's all good. We disagree. We keep it moving. Things we can collaborate on and work together on and corroborate on. Hey, let's do it. Things we can't, let's just keep it moving. Right? I don't have to prove that I'm better than you. I don't have to prove that I'm smarter than you. I don't have to prove any of those things. The only thing I'm going to do is just be more effective than you and outwork you behind where it becomes readily apparent that I am better at some things. Right? But I don't have to prove anything to you. Right? But some of us have confidence, not enough esteem. It can also be found in something else I refuse to do. Look, if I'm getting in a conflict with someone, I disagree with them, particularly in my ecosystem. There's enough hatred and vitriol to go around. I just refuse to participate in it. I was listening to a funny talk that Johnny Depp gave recently, and he was talking about somebody asked him, "Don't you hate what transpired? Don't you hate the people who caused you pain over the last several years?" He says, "Hate, man, it's an expensive emotion. It's an expensive emotion. You have to care about people that hate them. You have to care about something involving them. I'd rather not, right? I feel the exact same way. It's like I don't have time to hate. I rather spend my energies not compromising and arguing and fighting, but spending my energy building tolerabilities. So I refuse to go out. And entrepreneurs get caught up in this a lot. You get caught up in the circle of constantly evaluating, pocket watching, and talking about other people all the time when you should be focused on your game, right? I'm not going to hate on someone, especially if they've achieved a certain modicum of success. It doesn't have to be much. I know how difficult this game is. I know how challenging it is to just earn a living and be able to pay your bills as an entrepreneur, much less scale and grow something, right? Where you're employing people. It is extremely difficult. That is a process. If you've done it, unless they were born on third base, they paid a price. So I'm not going to tear down somebody else's building. What I'm going to do is build taller buildings. Now, look, there are times where you got to go punch somebody in the face. There's times where you do have to knock people's teeth out. But it's not nearly as frequently as you think. Majority of the time, people are just being people. They're just being competitive. They're just, out here doing whatever it is they're doing. It's not like they woke up today and thought about you and said, you are the person that I want to bring pain and bad consequences to. No, people are just peopling, right? And when you have a certain degree of esteem for yourself and esteem for the people you work with, you don't spend time, that is, tearing down their buildings, right? You build taller buildings and you keep it moving. You complete each other rather than compete each other. Competitive competition can be good when you're challenging each other, pressing each other, pushing each other towards a goal, right? It becomes bad when the goal becomes to tear down each other. Hopefully, excuse me. I need some water, but I don't have time to get to it. Little kids rustling around. But you don't have time to get to it. Okay. All right. Last but not least, well, not last but not least, but second last, social bias. One of the biggest things that kill entrepreneurs in the cradle is proximity to the people around you, right? The bottom line is most families don't have people in the family that have achieved at a very high level, 6 figures plus, right, as entrepreneurs. They just don't have them in the family. because they don't have it in the family. There's a bias, right? You haven't seen it, so you don't believe it. It's an absence of vision. When I talk to entrepreneurs and I ask them, look, where do you see for yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? In a moment they say, I got this little thing that I'm doing, or I got this little meeting that I'm doing, or I got this little this or this little that. You know what I'm talking about. I have this small this, I have this small that. I know right then and there this person's in trouble. Because if you're not thinking big, if you don't have something, a motivation, a locomotive, right? A crazy motivation that will enlist you in the work even when you don't feel like it, you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to do what's necessary. There could be nothing little about what you do. There could be nothing little about your motivation. There could be nothing little about your vision. Number one, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, your vision has to be big enough to accommodate all the things that need to transpire in order for you to have success. So you're thinking this little thing, that's all you're going to be building is this little thing for the rest of your life. And little things don't last long in an entrepreneur game. You get gobbled up, right? There is going to be another crisis is going to occur. It's not always a medical. Sometimes it's financial. Sometimes it's personal. Sometimes it's spiritual. Sometimes it's materially. Like crisis occurs all the time. Just because you chose entrepreneurship, it's not going to stop. And if you're doing little things, you're going to get steamrolled, right? You need to be the car driving down the freeway at 1,000,000 miles per hour. You get the point. I'm not recommending speeding. You know what I'm saying? So when the crisis and the issues come up, you're the force of nature, and those things smack off your windshield like gnats, and you just take your windshield wiper and wipe them off. Right? You have to be big. You have to have velocity. You have to have belief. You have to have the type of vision that is so strong that it inspires people to patronize you and inspires people to join you. You're going to need advocates along the way. And so I'm always concerned about that social bias, right? That proximity bias where you become a victim of people telling you what you can't do or how far you can't go, or maybe perhaps because you haven't seen a certain type of performance before, you think it's not possible. It's all possible. I hear people say, I've heard numerous times people say, it's impossible till someone does it, right? So that's the other thing that kills entrepreneurs. And then last but not least, and I'll wrap up here, because I am more than 15 minutes in, I think, and I'm about to be 15 minutes in. I wanted to be about 10 minutes long. All right, so here we go. Avoiding the work. Yep, avoiding the hard work. So many entrepreneurs spend so much time in the beginning trying to take shortcuts, looking for ways to skirt responsibility and accountability, looking for ways to skirt the work, the dirt, the phone calls, the knocking on doors, or the going to networking events. We want the easy way out, right? I see a lot of people dip into social media trying to build their business, and social media is definitely invaluable, right? I have a channel in particular where I only average, and I said the word only, so now I have to check my language, where I average on 100 views. That's it. 100 views. That's what I average. But you know what? If I'm averaging 100 views a day or 100 views a week, that's 100 people that are aware of me that may not have been aware of me before. That's 100 people that have a chance to begin to like, know, and trust me, become more familiar with me, know the integrity to my message and the way I move. That's cool. But you're not going to build a solid stream of revenues in any business endeavor with 100 people. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. With just 100 people just looking, that ain't going to happen. And some people don't understand it takes time, right? I have probably 40,000 followers across all of my social media channels, predominantly on LinkedIn. It took time to build that. I didn't pay a fee. I didn't play these games people paid. It was belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, interacting with people, taking an active interest, going back and forth. Lately, I've been neglecting my LinkedIn. I need to jump back into it again, but you get the point. And if you think that you're going to jump online and become Mr. Beast or become some of these individuals who have millions of followers overnight, that's a definitely disrespect to the entrepreneur process. It's not going to happen, right? You're going to have to be willing to shake hands. You're going to have to be willing to go out there and expose yourself in ways that you probably are uncomfortable with. Success as an entrepreneur is found outside the comfort zone. That's never going to change. So often people are seeking comfort in the work that they do. This is not W-2. This is not a job. This is not a situation where you can show up to work and still get a check whether you perform or not. And even in that situation, you're going to get caught up sooner or later. This is entrepreneurship. So if you are running from the hard things simply because they're hard, you need to start running to them. You need to be the bull that runs to the storm and through the storm, as opposed to running from the storm and then you still get caught, right? And that's typically what ends up happening. You're like the plane that doesn't expend all the fuel that's necessary to get off the ground, so you avoid the poles, the buildings, so you overcome gravity and all the things the plane could potentially smack into or cause problems till you get to a comfortable height where you can sail. Some of you are not expending enough fuel, especially in the beginning. You're trying to play it safe. Or once again, you're avoiding the hard. No, it's spend the fuel so you don't run into the buildings and the light poles. So when disability, untimely deaths, um, financial crisis, an issue transpires, you have created enough momentum to get off the ground where when those situations happen, you're coasting. And that's entrepreneurship. That's what it is. You're fighting gravity, people's opinions. And then you're fighting all the things that are continue to happen along the way, competition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have to get off the ground to a comfortable altitude to stop avoiding the work. The bottom line is so many people spend so little, you've wasted so much time avoiding it, right? You're trying to avoid expending the fuel, and then it's just a bumpy ride, right? The turbulence is constant. The issues are constant. Everything is painful. You have not gotten off the ground high enough. And that is probably the number one horseman that kills the most entrepreneurs. Is that right there? Is that right there? Avoiding, because you spend 5 months. I mean, I've seen entrepreneurs spend 5 years avoiding the work. And that's why they never made the transition into building an asset that pays them whether they go to work or not. Everything stays a solo endeavor. Nothing wrong with it, because there's some people who enjoy that. But that's a tough road to go, man. When you are when you're the one and only. Okay, there's only so many hours in the day. You're only one person. You know where I'm going with this. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Got to get the kids up, make it happen, start doing that parenthood, daddy thing, and then jump back into the work. Hope this serves you as always. Celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for now.